Where to begin? Where to begin? I suppose I'm not mad, but I am certainly disappointed. Despite what online reactions may lead you to believe, I don't think Brave New World is that bad. Is it good? No, not really. But it's about on par with the average standalone MCU movie that's been released since Endgame. I think what's really happening is that the goodwill has finally worn off, and mainstream media outlets are no longer afraid to levy criticism against the big brand that has such a huge sway on their access to premieres and other events that are essential for their livelihoods. Lucky for you, I'm a hobbyist, aka an amateur, and am free to hate and love to my own heart's content, regardless of potential financial incentives. So, I can tell you, with a straight face, that Brave New World was fine, I guess. There was a lot wrong with it, but nothing that puts it in the 53% Rotten Tomatoes range, in my opinion. Because there's enough good stuff in here, I think. First of all, I really enjoyed the performances of Anthony Mackie, Harrison Ford, and Carl Lumbly. Each of them brought a certain humanity to each of their characters that honestly has felt pretty lacking in a lot of the live-action hero media that I've watched as of late. So serious props to them for that. And I especially mean this because of what felt like a relatively shallow script behind that. Frankly, most of the narrative and character choices in Brave New World are morbidly fascinating to me, because they are so clearly odd and seem to be done in a way that actively works against the premise of the movie. For starters, the movie has at least 3 rewrites, likely many more. 3 different groups of writers are credited on the final script in the credits, and that's not necessarily a surefire sign of a lack of quality, but it's not ideal. Typically, you get 2 writers credited, and usually in the better Marvel projects, you can find one creative team or voice claiming full ownership of the screenplay. But anyway, this is to be expected on account of the public coverage of the film's reshoots. The subject matter of these reshoots is its own topic, and I promise I will lambast that later on. But for now, I would like to address the 2 larger elephants in the room. First of all, why did they write this movie to have nearly the exact same story beats as Captain America Winter Soldier? Literally, who is that helping? Why would they do that? Are they stupid? If you're trying to give Sam Wilson the arc of becoming his own Captain America and leaning into the human side of the role rather than just trying to live up to Steve, why are you creating a story for him that is going to subconsciously draw an absurd amount of parallels to Winter Soldier, which is arguably the best standalone Cap movie? Because Brave New World starts with a standard mission for Captain America where he recovers a plot device that later becomes supremely important to how the story is shaking out. After that, a sleeper assassin makes an attempt on a central character's life, and off of this, we start to learn about a secret plot that has a much more extensive network of operatives than we can even imagine or comprehend. This enemy force has agents everywhere who can engage at the drop of a hat. For every step forward that our heroes take, they are forced to take another 2 steps back. The entire government is against them because of this villainous force. And the driving mind behind this force is algorithmically, I mean statistically driven to calculate the most surefire way to eliminate the biggest enemies in their path. Though this villain seems long defeated from a prior movie, they secretly have been pulling the strings and working their way into a foolproof position for some time now. Things all come to a head when we learn that the central leadership character is not only compromised, but is in a way enabling the enemy force our heroes are up against. In fact, they are the real villain of our story. And in the final fight, our hero is forced to talk down an enemy he is unwilling to fight physically. Instead, he appeals to an emotional connection to lift the veil that this temporary antagonist has been put under. Like, come on. Come on. Are we serious? Why? Why are we doing this to Sam Wilson? Why are we forcing Anthony Mackie's leading role to still be in another movie's shadow? What the fuck? And this is not even considering the fact that this movie is supremely reliant on its audience having seen The Incredible Hulk and The Eternals. One movie which came out 17 years ago and had half of its characters recast. The other movie, which literally no one has seen. A ton of dialogue and exposition is put into summarizing these movies for you. They literally play news clips because they know that no one remembers this shit. And if you are one of the 14 people, such as myself, who have actually seen both of these, the exposition and reminders to the audience are even more painful. The only reward for having seen either of these movies going into Brave New World is one of the 2 following reactions. Oh, wow, a Mr. Blue song. That's a fun callback to his screen name with Banner. Or, holy shit, I can't believe they are finally acknowledging the gigantic Earth-destroying celestial that has been sitting on Earth for half a decade. Anyway, I'm ranting. On to the other elephant in the room, which is coincidentally the size of a mouse. The Israeli chick. Honestly, there was no need. Like, in no way did she need to be here or to be controversial. Her being Israeli is so throwaway and meaningless to the character that you could make the argument that it was only included to stir up controversy and gain attention. It's just a monumentally stupid choice and honestly in very poor taste. There is one mention of her nationality, which could easily have been removed given the current world climate. But for some asinine reason, this character, who, mind you, could have just been a normal former Red Room widow who is now a top security agent for Ross, is Israeli. And also, she's played by some actress who is apparently in the IDF, which is not only unethical, but also she is not that good at acting, I feel like. I don't know what sort of acting classes they're offering over there in entitlement land, but they're not very great, apparently. First we've got Gal Gadot, and now we have this lady. They are not sending their best, folks. They are sending us sentient wooden planks. Okay, so now that I've covered the talking point that your least favorite movie reviewer has been harping on since 2023, on to the meatier stuff that I think actually impacts the movie more materially. And that would be how uninteresting it chooses to be. For starters, Giancarlo Esposito continues to have his career be assassinated by the world's strongest typecasters. Please let this talented man play a role with any sort of difference from the calculating villain stereotype. Beyond that, the movie makes a point of highlighting how Sam is not an enhanced human and that this is a struggle for him, but when it does this, it tries to have its cake and eat it this way. Biggest example being that Sam now has vibranium wings. And let me tell you, after 7 years, Marvel still hasn't made that purple exploding bullshit look good or feel interesting as a fight mechanic. Honestly, if they didn't make Sam's wings have that stupid purple glow and energy burst, I think his fights would have been a lot more engaging and felt like they hit considerably harder. They actually have Sam use his wings in some really interesting and creative ways through the course of the movie and choreograph some good bits of action with them, but even that lacks in a lot of ways. The action oscillates between feeling very kinetic, good, and punchy in certain shots to, at times, feeling like it's moving at a snail's pace and is just poorly edited. When it's slow and shoddily put together, the fight scenes underwhelm and really drag out and kill momentum. Sometimes it even feels like the effects of Captain America's shield in this movie have regressed, and it feels even less weighty or snappy when you compare it to any of the other Marvel movies or even Falcon and the Winter Soldier. So straight up, I don't know what's going on there. But in spite of all of this, there is still some good to be found in Brave New World. Ross is an interesting ally turned protagonist, with his emotional through line being really well played by Harrison Ford. Also, please try to ignore the fact that this Betty through line of his was clearly what they were reshooting, though, since any scene mentioning her or the cherry blossoms looks notably more atrocious in terms of its visuals. And also, please try to ignore the fact that this being part of the reshoots means that they most likely did not have this in their original script, so somehow defeating a Hulk by calming it down or appealing to its less angry emotions was a last-second idea for them. Very cool. And again, Anthony Mackie is good in his role. He deserved to be in a better movie, and so did Carl Lumbly, who played Isaiah Bradley. There was a better version of this movie somewhere. It's not on screen, but it's somewhere. There was a braver version, a version that maybe actually had something to say, a message that was relevant to our moment in 2025. Maybe Isaiah was a special operative working with Sam in the same way Joaquin was throughout the movie. Maybe the three of them were trying to do some good from the inside. Maybe they all recognize that they're working with the enemy, so to speak, but they go out of their way to force the enemy of Ross into really tough spots and minimize the damage he can do from his position of power. Maybe the central theme is them continuing to fight when the odds are stacked against them. Maybe Sam's arc is still fighting this good fight, even if he knows the rules don't apply to his opponent, and even when he knows those same rules are almost strangling him. Maybe the story is about Sam finding a way to win in spite of all of this, or at the very least, inspire people enough to keep going and standing up. And it doesn't need to be that corny shit about going high when others go low, because that's dumb at this point. It can just be as simple as keep fighting, because the battle isn't over until you believe it's over. And Sam can still appeal to Ross with Betty, because I did think that was nice, and he can still have this battle against a big, impossible enemy at the end. But it should be just as much about Sam getting up again and again as it is about wearing Ross down and tiring him out. It's a war of survival, and Captain America always gets back up. There's an iconic shot of Steve limping toward Thanos alone in Endgame. I think if they made some sort of intentional parallel here with Sam, if they really let our new Captain America get his shit kicked in for another minute or two and had him get up again and again and again, then that could have really been something. Maybe he recognizes what he's doing in the moment, or maybe a bystander sees him fighting the unwinnable fight. Whatever it is, Sam realizes that he really is Cap, and I think Sam deserved to have a moment like that to show the audience and himself that he is capable of being in this position. Because at the end of the day, we don't really root for the guys who just kick ass. We root for the guys who can get their ass kicked and keep on going. Brave New World was not very exciting. In fact, the most interesting part of it was how its script seemed to actively work against so many of its characters. But even with that, it's a fine movie. It's not the best, but it's not the worst. I give it 2.5 out of 5 stars for me. It's rather milquetoast despite having every opportunity to be more than that, and it is certainly frustrating. Oh, also, what the fuck is Bucky doing as a senator? How does that make any sense? Like, for him as a character, it doesn't make sense, and it functionally doesn't make sense. How is he gonna be a superhero? How the fuck would a Russian asset be elected to— Oh. Right. Okay, until next time.